Hello, computer science principal students. Let's build a factorial block. So what is a factorial? Factorial is n exclamation point, or in other words, if we take some number n, we're going to multiply every number that comes after it until we get to 1. So for the example, 4 factorial is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which is 24. So let's get started. So if we need to make this factorial block, we're going to open up the factorial that I made. Okay, right now we have num factorial and then report. So we have to think, what we have to do is we have to think, in order to get a number, say 4, and then multiply every number below itself, we're going to have to create a script variable. And then we're going to use that variable to store an answer, and then every time we multiply something, we're going to store that answer as that variable, and then until we get down to 1. So the first thing we're going to need is, let's go grab a script variable. We're going to call this, instead of a, we're going to just call it factorial. Now there's a couple key things, and if you remember about factorials, if you know, there's two concepts, 1 and above and 0. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to set our factorial equal to 1, because 1 times 1 times 1, or 1 times anything is itself, so that's a good starting position. So we're going to set, after the script variable, we're going to set the factorial equal to 1. And then what we need to do is we have to think, we need to report something. Well, if we remember, factorials, there's two concepts, 1 and above, and 0. And 0 factorial is always 1. So if we grab an if-else, we're going to put an if-else in here, and we're going to say, we'll start off the first thing and say, okay, well, if the answer is 0 factorial, then we need it to be 1. So we're going to get an equals, and if our number is equal to 0, then we want it to report the number 1. And then anything above that, so if it's 1, we're just going to have 1 times 1. If it's 2, we got to go 2 and then 2 times 1. And if it were 4, we got to go 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So in order to do that, the variable, or take the variable that we have, store it a number, and then go into and grab another number and multiply it, and then store that number. And then go into the next thing and get another number. So what we're going to need is, we're going to need the for block. And then from there, we will need another report. What we're going to do is, we want this to start at the number and go down. So instead of starting at 1, we can say, let's start at number. Okay? And then we're going to go always to 1. So we got the two things. We got, if the number is 0, it's going to report 1. If the number is, say, a larger number, like 4, then we want it to go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So what are we going to do each time? Well, we want this I to go in and basically multiply by that variable that we create. So we need to multiply these two things together. So if we grab an operator and multiply, we're going to say I times factorial. Okay, but in order to do that, we first have to multiply two things and then store that. So if we grab another set here, when it goes in, we're going to set factorial equal to I times factorial. Okay, and then it stores its number. So if we say 4, it's going to set factorial to 1. So once we put in the I times factorial, it stores it as factorial, and then it goes in and gets the next number and multiplies that times the factorial, and then goes in and gets another number until we get to 1. Then we have to report, once we are done with that, we need to report, obviously, the factorial number that we have. So if we grab another factorial, okay, hit apply, and let's see what we got. So for instance, 4, if we do 4 factorial, we should get 24. And it's 24. Okay, if we go 3 factorial, which is 3 times 2 times 1, we should get 6. Yay. And let's check the other one. If we get 0, let's type in 0. 0 factorial should be 1. Good. So to answer this question, how do we create a factorial block so that we can get 12 factorial? Now all we have to do is put in 12. So it's 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which is 479001600. And that's how we create the factorial block. So, for your quiz, have fun, and remember, do your best, forget the rest. See you soon. Bye.